In November 2022, my friend Dick Lubman, also known as Dickel, and I took off for an adventure to South America. We rented a car and drove south to Key West. We were greeted the first morning with a beautiful sunrise. We then toured the local area, went down to the docks, saw some beautiful cruisers and sailboats. Of course, we had to stop by Jimmy Buffett's famous Margaritaville bar. And across the street, we met a girl we hadn't seen in a long time. Someone suggested that we see the Harry Truman Key West White House that he established right after he became president. It was very interesting, and we learned a lot there. We had fun touring there and hung around for about an hour. Next day, we toured several shipwreck museums with all kinds of artifacts. Of course, we were forced to visit several beaches, check them out, and had to buy a beer or two. Before driving to the airport, we stopped at Miami Beach and saw several ladies there sunbathing without a top on. We were shocked. That afternoon, we caught a flight out of Miami and flew south to Guayaquil in Ecuador. Dick Lubman and I were impressed with the modern airport there, decorated with beautiful gardens and fish ponds. After spending the night in a nice hotel, the next morning we flew west to the Galapagos Islands. We landed on the island of San Cristobal, as you can see from the map here, and taken by bus to Zodiacs waiting in the harbor. A sea lion saw us off as we were then ferried out to our ship, the National Geographic Endeavour II. Accommodations aboard the ship were very nice, and although our room was small, it was only a few steps from the bar. The next morning, we woke up to see the island of Hispaniola off our starboard bow. We learned that it was home to the famous Darwin finches, who have evolved, developing different beaks over time. Studying of these birds launched Darwin's theory of evolution. It is also home to boobies, waved albatross, mockingbirds, and hooded lizards. Hundreds of marine iguanas along the beach seemed to be enjoying themselves and were oblivious to our presence. We were asked not to get any closer than 10 feet to the animals there, and they seemed very happy to be ignoring us and enjoying the nice weather. The island is covered with albatross, and we had an opportunity to observe the birds' interesting courting behaviors. It has been described as an ecstatic ritual to explain the courtship of the Galapagos waved albatross. It's a highly ritualized dance where each partner must initiate and react with precision movements made by the partner. The pair faces each other spaced apart, so when they lower their heads and stretch out their necks, their beaks can just touch. Once their long yellow beaks are in contact, they quickly move and slide the ends around each other with gentle strokes and taps, making a hollow wooden sounded noise. We had to stop and watch their ritual go on, and it seemed to last for hours and hours. Apparently, once they mate this way, when they return to the island several months later, they will go through this ritual to reestablish their bond. We saw many other bird species on the island. A Galapagos hawk. We next sailed west to the island of Floriana. Dickel and I took a Zodiac ashore, and that was part of the adventure as well. Floriana is home to the famous blue-footed boobies, one of 3 different booby species found on the Galapagos. They're large, distinctive birds and found along the eastern coastline. They often nest in small islands and rocky coasts. Their name comes from the Spanish word bubu, meaning foolish or clown. However, despite their clumsiness on land, boobies are extremely agile in the air. At dawn, they take off in search of schools of small fish, like sardines or anchovies. They forage sometimes in groups of up to 200 birds. Once a prey is spotted, they fold back their wings and dive in a streamlined shape into the water. We were told that they hit the water at speeds up to 60 miles an hour. Then they snap up fish in kind of a serrated beak. We watched for hours as these blue-footed boobies kept diving into the water, grab some fish, they take off again and fly right up for another dive and more breakfast. We saw several other birds on Floriana. Surprised to see a pelican in a tree. And though they're kind of awkward looking on the ground, they're very graceful flying. Frigate birds are very common and distinctive by the red pouch that they also use in mating. Along the beach we saw a lot of interesting shells. The next day, we cruised to the island of Santa Cruz and visited the Darwin Research Center. That's a whale of a bone. Dickel suggested that we pose as 2 famous explorers on the islands. We're happy to see Chuck there in his office. The research station is working to bring back from the edge of the extinction several different species of tortoises that were hunted to the edge of extinction. The Galapagos tortoise is the largest living species of the tortoise, with some weighing up to 900 pounds. They have a lifespan of over 100 years, and one has been documented at 177 years. Tortoise numbers declined from over 250,000 in Galapagos in the 16th century to less than 15,000 in the 1970s. This decline was caused by the overexploitation of the tortoise for meat and oil. We learned that early sailing ships would capture hundreds of them and and put them in the ship's hold for fresh meat later on during the cruise. If left on their back, the tortoise could live up to a year without food or water. We were pleased to see this beautiful little yellow warbler there among the tortoises. Later on that day, on Santa Cruz, we visited a small farm that specializes in the growing of sugarcane and production of rum. The next overnight cruise took us to the island of Dragon Hill. Here we saw giant iguanas who have been brought back from the brink of extinction by local environmentalists. Now they're very prolific. We also found some good snorkeling there. We were happy to see a pair of pink flamingos feeding in one of the marshes on this island. The following morning, we woke up to the site of Bartolome Island, a volcanic island with a tall cinder cone in the center. And of course, we had to climb up 375 feet to get to the top and a better view. We were told that this part of the island is where one of the episodes of Pirates of the Caribbean was filmed. The next day, on Sombrero Island, we took a Zodiac to the shore and had some fun snorkeling. We saw some dolphins playing alongside the boat. We had fun snorkeling in several areas. There were always new interesting fish and coral formations to see. These white-tipped reef sharks were just kind of hanging out on the bottom there and were not a danger to us. They do not attack snorkelers. The most fun for me happened on a dive near Bartolome Island. I had gone out with 3 others, and we had an encounter with 3 or 4 sea lions. They enjoyed cavorting around us, and I was excited when one of them came by and rubbed his whiskers along my hand. The sunsets in the islands were always beautiful, and we enjoyed going topside to watch the colors change. On the 7th day of our cruise, we crossed the equator as we sailed north to the island of Genovesa, also known as the Bird Island. We hiked among nesting colonies of gulls, frigate birds, and Nazteca boobies. We happened across several newly hatched booby chicks, and as before, the birds didn't seem to be concerned that we were walking by. Here is a juvenile booby. Apparently, they need to be about 1 to 2 years old before they can fly and spend time sitting on a branch and just flapping their wings to exercise. On the final day of our cruise, we sailed south to the island of Baltra, where I caught a flight to the mainland. On the final day of the cruise, Dickel came down with a mild case of COVID, and Ecuadorian law required him to stay quarantined on the island for 5 days. He had it rough there, and these are some of the pictures he took from his room and around the area. He told me this seal woke him up every morning about 6 a.m. During our cruise, National Geographic provided 2 photographers who were with us all the time, taking pictures of our adventures. There is no question that the National Geographic photographers are some of the best in the world. They gave us a 15-minute video of our trip, and I wanted to include it here to help you get a better idea of the images of things that we saw on a trip. Please don't compare my photography to theirs. Ha ha ha.
Diversity from one island to another. I cannot wait to go back to my students and inspire them, because this is a place that people will need to travel.
In a nice pier, and as we went inland, we found 2 small beaches where we saw a lot of baby sea lions and a large mass of marine iguanas. Marine iguanas piled up together, trying to warm up on top of each other and also sneezing all that extra salt. As we continued our walk, we found the waved albatross. This is the species that we come to see here in Española. No bird like this is so charismatic in the air. And here also we see them nesting, so we were able to see some of their chicks. Española is one of the oldest islands in the archipelago, with more than 3 million years old. And here is a perfect nesting area for lots of seabirds. We are in the south of the archipelago, bathed by the Humboldt Current. So there's a lot of nutrients in these waters that the seabirds take advantage of. And this is a perfectly safe nesting area for them. We were very fortunate to also see the top predator in the Galapagos, which is the Galapagos hawk. It came close to our trail, searching for possible prey.
This morning we are on a photo walk. And we say that the early bird gets the worm, and as soon as we put a foot here, it was just incredible for our photographers, because we found a big flock of blue-footed boobies and pelicans in a feeding frenzy. So Galapagos is the perfect place to take great pictures, and mostly animals are wild action. So to put your cameras in burst mode and to put a very high shutter speed, at least 1,000 of a second, is perfect to capture blue-footed boobies and pelicans diving, catching their food. but also portraits are great here. We found some sea lions on the beach just sleeping, and just to take a picture of their faces is just beautiful. To be here, every time I come here, we take great pictures. So all the time we are very welcome to Cormorant Point.
Welcome to Post Office Bay. This barrel, we have no idea who set it up here, but we know that it came from at the end of the 1700s. This has been used by pirates, whalers, buccaneers back in the past of the Galapagos. This bay was used as a meeting point so they can deliver their postcards.
Okay, anybody here from Omaha, Nebraska?
Sedona, Arizona. Lake Forest.
Back in the day, they would let the card up. Once they pick it up, they will can deliver to the person that it belongs. And nowadays, here in the National Geographic Endeavor 2, we keep this tradition alive in order to remember all those good days that the Galapagos had.
And if someone is from there, you bring your hand up and say tradition, and then the next and the next, because there's so many letters, so you just keep going, okay?
The Galapagos tortoise is it's amazing. It's like seeing a dinosaur. It's almost like you want to respect them so much just because they're so old. It's like an elder walking by and you need to, get out their way. It's also beautiful how something so powerful moves so slow. And you think about an adaptation that would have you here a long time, you think about something fast, something that can climb a tree. But the most successful animal here in the Galapagos is a tortoise that moves so slow. And it makes me think about how I move through life. Like, am I going too fast and actually missing it or delaying it when I could just go slow and appreciate what's going on.
This area has a population of tortoises that is one of the healthiest ones, the survivors of the whaling time. Buccaneers, pirates, and then after whalers use tortoises as snacks, one of the best sources of food in the middle of the ocean for their long journeys. This is a reason why most of the populations of tortoises on the Galapagos have gone down, and we as National Park have started around the 80s, breeding programs to restore those populations.
Once we have the knowledge and we understand the ecosystems around us, that inspires us to take care of them even more. So I will be going back with just outstanding, incredible memories, and I want to bring my family here for them to experience. And I'm collecting a lot of memories to bring back to my school, my students, my community, and this is once in a lifetime experience.
These beautiful birds are migratory birds, but in the case of the Galapagos, they have stayed here permanently on vacations. This bird is looking for brine shrimp. He's straining the water with his very specialized beak.
You can't buy it, and just gives you the appreciation for life and the abundance of life and the variety of life. This is like no place in the world, and we have a responsibility to protect it. We have a responsibility to keep it safe and keep it so all
We hope the waves, it's incredible. It's like opening the door to a secret, almost like something you've never seen before, and you get an opportunity just to see it just for a little bit. It's like life-changing.
Adios, until we meet again.